welcome back to True-Moto-Resto, and on today's video we're doing the winter oil change and final drive oil change on the Valkyrie. Stay tuned. So before we get torn back into the CBX 750, which is on the lift over there, we're just going to warm up the Valkyrie for 5 minutes, get the oil warmed up, and then we're going to change the oil. We're going to do the final drive gear oil. I don't know if that's ever been done. It's a 2014 bike, but when I got it at the beginning of this year, it only had 4,000 kilometers on it, so we're going to do the final drive oil as well. Alright, so I mean, most of this stuff is usually pretty basic. I've never done an oil change on this particular bike before. It's the first one. But it really shouldn't be too much different than most. One drain plug, which is under here. Where is it? Right there. It's the one drain plug. And then the oil filter is here. I'm going to see if I have an oil filter wrench for that. And I just like to start off with a spotlessly clean oil pan, and the reason I do that is if I ever find any bits in the oil, bits of metal, anything like that, anything at all, I want to know where it's come from. And in my opinion, if you've got a filthy oil pan that still has old oil in it or bits of sludge and crap from previous oil changes, you have no idea what's coming out of the engine that you're doing the oil change on right now. So that's just my personal preference. I'm using a Motul synthetic 10W40 in this bike. It takes 3.9 liters, and genuine Honda oil filter. I have drain plug gasket for the engine and a drain gasket for the rear final drive. And yeah, let's get to it. And just to the fact that this drain plug is in very close proximity to a cylinder there of some sort. It's like a cylinder for, or canister, I guess is a better way to put it, for emissions. I think I have to use the long extension to be able to clear the ratchet head. So basically now I'm just undoing the drain plug, as you do, and there we go. And we're just gonna open this up just to help it drain. Okay, so before I put the drain plug back in, I still got to take the oil filter out, but new crush gasket, crush washer to go on there. And what I normally do is I kind of try to look for, usually with these, the way they're stamped, there's a kind of a slightly rounded side, which is that side, and then there's a more square side, which is that side. So I like to put it so the square side here where my finger is touching goes against the block, and so that would go on the drain plug like that. Well, it would if they had given me the right size at the Honda dealer. What a bunch of goons. Alright, fortunately for me, I bought extra gaskets of another size for another purpose. So these are, I believe, the right ones. So that will go on there. Again, flat side out. Alright, so here's my oil filter wrench, cap, whatever you want to call it. See if I can get a 17mm socket on there. If not, I'll have to use a wrench. It came off pretty easy. One thing I like about triangular oil pans is you can usually maneuver them in such a way that it still gives you room to get a hand in there to do certain things, which is nice. All right, so that is out of there. It looks like they gave me the right one. Same height, same diameter. So I think we're okay there. There's actually not too many different filters that Honda uses these days, it seems. I think my Africa Twin took the same one, or takes the same one. I think my VFR 800 took the same one. So all I'm doing here is I'm putting a little bit of oil on the gasket. Before I put the drain plug back in, I find it's also a good idea to kind of reach in with a rag and just make sure that the face of where that bolt and the gasket are going to seat is nice and clean, because oftentimes there's a lot of road grime that kind of gets thrown up in here. And new filter going on. I've never ever used a torque wrench to put one of these on, so for me it's just hand tight, and I'm not the strongest guy in the world, so you know, I haven't got hands like a gorilla, so I've got hands like a raccoon, so over tightening these things is generally not a concern. Drain plug with the new crush washer. And again, I don't typically use a torque wrench. If you're in doubt about your ability to gauge the correct torque for something like this, then use a torque wrench. Because you don't want to over tighten it, you don't want to strip it. So basically, you know, again, I don't hold the wrench down at the end here. I try to hold it much further up. I just find I get a better feel. I can feel when the aluminum crush washer is starting to crush down a little bit, and yeah, just what I do. Some other bolts and stuff, yeah, I will use a torque wrench, but most times in the cases of an oil drain plug, I don't. And then again, it's also a good idea just to give a little spray of brake clean and whatnot over that area. Get rid of any oil residue. You don't want to have anything dripping on your garage floor after the fact, and then just kind of give it a good wipe off. Same with where the oil filter was seated. Get rid of any of that oil residue. When I'm draining the oil out of this thing, manual says to have it on the side stand to make it drain. I mean, the shape of the oil pan will help it drain to that side anyway. I think the manual wants it on the side stand, but I do have it canted over slightly to the left just to help with that. And then once I get to doing the final drive, I'll have it upright. I also got to say that the first time I used this Mocho 7100 synthetic motor oil, and it's kind of looks like transmission fluid. It is kind of strange when you see that going in. Okay, so I put the dipstick back in here. Snug that down. I don't want oil spraying out when I start the bike up. So I've put, it's supposed to be 3.9 liters. I put about 3.8 in, and then I'm going to check it, and I'll add the last 100 if I need it, right after I fire the bike up for a second. Just check for leaks. Everything is good. So now we'll do check the oil level. All right, so checking, so it's basically run it for 2 to 3 minutes, shut it off, let it sit for 2 to 3 minutes, remove this, and then wipe it off, and then reinsert it. Try to do this with one hand. Right, so there is the final oil level check. That's basically that's the full 4 liters in there. I took out 4.5 liters of oil. So I guess the dealership that had this before me overfilled it. But anyway, 4.5 liters came out, 4 liters went in, yeah. Now on to the final drive. So yeah, I'm not a huge fan of using a box wrench on this sort of stuff because well, what is that? You know, how many sides or stars are in that wrench versus, you know, that. You know, the number of sides on the socket or the wrench. I like one that fits right over that, but you know, my box wrenches are what they are. This is not on too tight, so that's okay. I did manage to get a socket to loosen the drain plug. So let's take the vent plug out first. It has an O-ring in it, and then the drain plug, which I've already cracked loose. And we'll see if the dealership gave me the correct crush washer for that. Now, this may take a little longer to drain because I've not ridden the bike, so it's going to be a little thicker than I like. A little bit of gray stuff on the end of the magnetic drain plug, but nothing, no chips, just kind of like gray paste that you kind of expect. Because my guess is that this has never been changed. Say with the bike only having 4,000 kilometers on it when I got it, even though it's a 2014. Okay, new crush washer, and the gray goo has been cleaned out of the end of the drain plug. So what I am going to do is wipe the face of that again. Again, we'll snug this guy down. It's supposed to be about, if I remember correctly, it's supposed to be 20 Newton meters, but as I said, I'm just going to use the just going to feel it. There we go. That's snugged up. And now, more than likely, I'm going to have to rig up, if you can see here or not, the access to that drain hole, the filler hole. There's no kind of clear path there, so it looks like I'm going to have to get a piece of plastic tubing to kind of run on an angle and attach to the bottom of my funnel. It's supposed to be, I think, 120 cubic centimeters of gear oil for that. All right, I've got a piece of clean plastic tubing. There's my funnel. So basically what I'm going to do is this is the gear oil I'm putting in. It's Bell Ray. It's good for shaft drive units, and it's an 80W90. So I've marked on here. It's there's half a liter left in here. So I'm just gonna go from the it sits level. It sits right about there. So I'm gonna go down to the black mark, and that should give me what I need. And just in case I overfill it, I'm gonna put my drain pan back under there. But basically, it will. If you get too much in it, it will just flow out over the vent, the filler hole there. So. All right, so I got, you can see in there, pretty much brings it right up to the level of the filler. I'm gonna wipe the face of that casing. Make sure it seals properly. There's no dirt there. torqued particularly tight, but snug that up. There is a, I think it's 12 Newton meters in the manual if I'm not mistaken, but just have to check that for yourself. Doesn't take much. So that concludes the video. It's a pretty straightforward process doing the engine oil and whatnot on the Valkyrie. They do say in the manual for the rear final drive oil to spin the rear wheel to help it drain, but I just left it for a while and it seemed to be fine as far as taking the right amount of oil when I filled it. So there you go. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time.